At level 1, the intake, you are only 15 years old and you are nowhere near a street corner anymore. Instead, you are locked inside a holding cell at the Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center, and the reality of it hits hard. The cinder block walls feel cold and unforgiving. The air is so freezing it bites at your skin, and the sharp smell of industrial cleaner burns deep in your nose. You sit there on a stainless steel bench, tense and silent, waiting to be processed, wondering what comes next. Then suddenly 4 guys walk in. They are dressed in county jumpsuits, but the way they move makes it clear they are anything but ordinary. They carry themselves like kings, like they own the room. They do not ask your name, and somehow that makes it even worse. Instead, one of them looks at you and asks a single question. What do you claim? Just like that, everything changes. You have 3 seconds to answer. 3 seconds. If you say you are neutral, you become prey. If you claim the wrong nation, you become a target. Your throat tightens, fear rises fast, and you force yourself to remember the words your older cousin drilled into you. You swallow hard and say them. Somehow, for the moment, all is well. You claim the almighty Vice Lord nation. In an instant, the tension in the cell shifts, but do not mistake that for safety. Not yet. Words are not enough in there. You have to prove yourself. Right there in the holding cell, they put you through a violation test. They circle around you, measuring everything, testing your chin, your ribs, your heart. Can you take it? Can you fight? You swing back wildly, slipping against the concrete, trying not to fall, tasting your own blood as the pain explodes through your mouth. It is chaos and it feels endless. By the time the guards finally rush in, you are bruised, shaking, and gasping for air. But then, through all of it, the leader of the group gives you a subtle 5-fingered hand sign. That tiny gesture means everything. You pass the intake. Now you are in level 2, the foot soldier. You are 17 back on the west side of Chicago, standing in Lawndale while the brutal winter wind cuts in from Lake Michigan like a blade. This is your post now. You are a foot soldier, the absolute bottom rung of the street economy, and your job is the grind. You hold the packs. You serve the cars rolling up to the curb. But being a vice lord is not only about selling, is it? It is also about symbolism, discipline, and identity. You are forced to memorize the literature, and every word matters. You learn the meaning of the 5-point star: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. You learn what the symbols are supposed to mean: the top hat, the cane, the crescent moon. Little by little, they drill it into your head until it feels bigger than the street itself. You are taught not to see yourself as some ordinary street thug, but as a lord, a noble warrior. That idea gets repeated so often with so much force that it starts to sound like truth. But the truth, it is a lot colder, a lot uglier, and nowhere near as glorious as they make it sound. You are barely making $200 a week, standing out in the freezing snow dressed in black and gold, trying not to show fear while every car that creeps past makes your heart race. Are those rival gangster disciples rolling by? Or is trouble coming from your own side? Because the truth is, you are just as terrified of your own superiors as you are of the enemies across the line. And if your money comes up short at the end of the shift, there is no mercy, no brotherhood, no protection. Your own brothers beat you down. That is when you understand what you really are to them: an expendable pawn on a freezing chessboard, useful only as long as you produce and obey. Then comes level 3, the enforcer. You are 20 years old now. You have survived the corner, survived the pressure, and proved you will not fold when things get ugly. The leadership sees something in you, something dark and effective. They realize you have a talent for violence, and that changes everything. You are promoted to enforcer. Now you are no longer standing on the block with numb hands and frozen feet. Instead, you sit in a trailing car with heavily tinted windows, gripping a modified Glock with an extended magazine. The work is no longer about presence or hustling. Your job is pure aggression, direct and unmistakable. When a rival faction steps into your territory, you are the one sent to deliver the message. You are the warning. You are the consequence. At first, the power feels unbelievable. It surges through you like electricity. When you walk into a house party, it is as if the music drops all at once. People shift aside. Eyes follow you. Nobody wants to be in your path. For a moment, that fear feels like respect, and that respect feels intoxicating. But the cost shows up fast. The isolation hits immediately, hard and cold. You realize you can never truly relax again, not even for a second. Hypervigilance takes over your life. You cannot sit with your back to a door. You check under the carriage of your car every single morning. Every sound feels loaded. Every stranger feels suspicious. Every silence feels dangerous. And then the deeper truth sinks in. That power you thought you gained is really just a magnetic target strapped to your back. Yes, people fear you, but fear does not equal loyalty, and it definitely does not equal peace. You are feared, but you are completely alone. By level 4, the Minister of Information, you are 25, and everything shifts in the middle of the story. You begin to see the pattern clearly at last. The men who remain enforcers usually do not live to see 26. So you pivot. You have always been smart, always understood more than you let on, and now survival demands a different weapon. You put down the gun and pick up the manifesto. You become the Minister of Information for your branch, and suddenly your role is no longer about muscle alone. The Vice Lords function through a strange mix of street power, ritual, and paperwork, wrapped inside a pseudo-religious and highly bureaucratic structure. Now you are the teacher, the keeper of the sacred texts, the one who stands in front of the room and leads the meetings known as universals. Your voice carries weight now. You quiz the younger members, pressuring them to prove what they know about the nation's history, its rules, and its code. You teach them about the founders back at the Illinois State Training School in 1958, repeating the origin story until it feels almost holy. It is a brilliant lateral move, maybe the smartest one yet. You still hold immense power, but now you are not the one pulling the trigger. Instead, you shape the minds of 50 armed men. And what is more dangerous than that? If you declare that a certain member is violating the laws of the nation, discipline follows. Punishment follows. You come to understand a chilling truth. In the underworld, the man who controls the ideology can be far more dangerous than the man who controls the weapons. Then comes level 5, the branch elite. You are 30 now, and you are no longer just guiding one piece of the machine. You are running an entire faction. By this point, you know the Vice Lords are not some unified empire. They are fractured, splintered, divided into competing branches. Maybe you are a 5-star elite for the insane Vice Lords, or maybe for the Mafia Vice Lords or the conservative Vice Lords. Either way, you now control a massive stretch of the city, and the money pouring upward is staggering. Tens of thousands of dollars a week rise to you through street taxes, flowing in like a river. But then the second disruption hits, and it changes everything. Your enemy is no longer just the police. It is no longer only the rival gangs. Your greatest enemy becomes your own nation. A civil war erupts between your branch and a neighboring Vice Lord branch over a lucrative heroin distribution strip. Think about that for a second. You are now ordering hits on men wearing the same colors as you, men swearing loyalty to the same 5-point star. The hypocrisy is almost impossible to breathe through. At the universals, you preach unity, loyalty, and law, but out in the streets, you practice fratricide. The contradiction eats at you. The paranoia grows hotter and sharper until it reaches a fever pitch. You stop trusting your own lieutenants. You sleep in different apartments, never staying too long in one place, surrounded by bodyguards you secretly suspect might sell you out the moment the price is right. By level 6, the politician, you are 36. The street wars have created too much noise, too many bodies, too much pressure, and now the FBI is paying serious attention. So you make another calculation. You decide it is time to play the old historical vice lord card, legitimacy. You look back to the 1960s, to the era when the conservative vice lords opened businesses and even secured Rockefeller grants. And you realize the blueprint was there all along. So you copy the playbook with cold precision. You open a community outreach center. You launch a record label. You build a chain of barbershops. Little by little, the image changes. The streetwear disappears, replaced by tailored suits, polished shoes, and a public smile that looks almost respectable. You start showing up at city council meetings, speaking the language of reform and opportunity. You organize Stop the Violence rallies in the very same neighborhoods, where, behind the curtain, you are still quietly supplying the weapons. Isn't that the perfect contradiction? Politicians line up to shake your hand for the cameras, grinning wide, more than willing to accept your campaign donations as if they have no idea who they are really dealing with. Now you are a kingpin hiding in plain sight, and the danger has changed its shape. You are not ducking drive-bys anymore. That old fear has been replaced by something colder, quieter, and somehow even more terrifying. Now you are dodging forensic accountants. You are living in fear of wiretaps, sealed warrants, and hidden microphones. Every phone call feels dangerous. Every paper trail feels like a fuse burning toward an explosion. You wash money through fake charity drives, stacking lie on top of lie until your entire empire becomes a glittering fortress built on fraud. It looks solid from the outside, but you know the truth better than anyone. One subpoena, one accountant deciding to save himself. That is all it would take to bring the whole skyscraper crashing down. Then comes level 7, the ambassador. You are 42 when the fortress finally falls. The feds build a massive RICO case piece by piece, patient and relentless, and eventually you are indicted. The sentence hits hard. 20 years in a federal penitentiary. It sounds like the end, doesn't it? But it is not the end at all. The whole story simply changes location. You are transferred to USP Terra Haute, and because of your status, you immediately become the ambassador for the almighty Vice Lord nation inside the federal system. Now the stakes are different again. You are no longer tangled up in petty street beefs or neighborhood grudges. Now you are operating inside the brutal world of prison politics, where every conversation carries weight. You sit at stainless steel tables with leaders from the Aryan Brotherhood, the Mexican Mafia, and the cartels negotiating understandings that affect the entire compound. You help manage the flow of contraband, cell phones, Suboxone, and narcotics moving through the prison walls. Sometimes a single conversation from you can stop a race riot before it starts. Think about that. Your world has been reduced to barbed wire, locked doors, and concrete, yet your influence feels almost geopolitical in scale. You become a diplomat of the damned. Inside, you rule your own people with absolute and ruthless discipline. If a vice lord uses heroin on your yard, the punishment is severe. There is no softness, no excuse, no room for weakness. In this place, you govern a society of outlaws using the very rules that the outside world once tried to strip away from you. And then comes level 8, the universal elite. At 55, you have done the time and finally walk out through the federal gates. Older now, harder, weathered by years that carved themselves into your face and your bones. You carry the rank of universal elite. You sit on the Supreme Blood Council. Out on the streets of Chicago, your name has become something bigger than a man, almost a legend, almost a myth whispered by young kids who were not even born when your reputation was built. But when you return to the West Side, the truth hits with a brutal force. The nation you gave your life to is gone, or at least what is left of it is unrecognizable. The younger generation does not read the literature. They do not care about the top hat, the cane, or the old codes. Love, truth, and peace. To them, those words mean almost nothing. Everything is disorganized, reckless, chaotic. They shoot blindly for clout on social media, chasing attention instead of structure. They respect your name, sure, but they do not follow your rules. And what does that leave you with? You begin to understand something devastating. The ideology you spent your entire life defending has evaporated into thin air. You are a general standing before an army that no longer exists. Most men who reach this level drift into bitter obscurity, drowning themselves in alcohol, mumbling about how the new generation ruined everything. But not you. You still have one final move left. By 60, you become the fixer. You do not die in the streets. You do not return to prison. Instead, you pull off the ultimate magic trick. You take that spotless, legendary street credibility and turn it into something legal, something polished, something profitable. Suddenly, you are hired by city government or by a giant nonprofit as a violence interrupter, maybe a community liaison. The image changes again. Now you wear a sweater vest and glasses. Now you sit in air-conditioned boardrooms beside the mayor's staff and the chief of police, speaking calmly while everybody in the room pretends not to notice where your authority really comes from. They pay you $90,000 a year in taxpayer money to advise them on gang violence. Think about that. When the city starts burning, they call you to make peace. You walk into some of the most dangerous housing projects in America, and the shooters lower their weapons because they know exactly who you are. You negotiate ceasefires. You calm wars. The media praises you as a reformed savior, a symbol of redemption, a man who came back from the darkness. You smile for the cameras, but behind your eyes the truth never changes. You did not defeat the system. You infected it. You took the ruthless politics of the vice lords and translated them into City Hall,